landing legs have deployed. And Falcon 9 has landed.
Welcome to the webcast for the Transporter-8 mission. SpaceX's two-stage Falcon 9 rocket is currently scheduled to lift off in just under 8 minutes from now from Space Launch Complex 4 East at Vandenberg Space Force Base, just a few hours north of our headquarters in Hawthorne, California. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. I'm Jessie Anderson, a manager for Falcon production here at SpaceX, and I'll be your host as we follow Falcon 9 takes 72 spacecraft to low Earth orbit and beyond. As you might have guessed, today's launch marks our 8th dedicated smallsat rideshare program launch. And if you've been following along, this mission marks our 2nd launch for today, 40th launch in 2023, and 239th mission of all time. On board the 2nd stage are 72 spacecraft, including CubeSats, MicroSats, a re-entry capsule, and orbital transfer vehicles carrying spacecraft to be deployed at a later time. All 72 spacecraft will separate from the 2nd stage between 39 deployment events, which is scheduled to start around the T+1 hour mark. Although all 72 payloads will deploy within one deployment sequence,
Chill has started.
Views and telemetry will vary throughout. In the middle of the deployment sequence, we will have a short blackout period, but as always, we'll bring you live coverage as it becomes available to us. Now, we are currently working towards a T0 of 2:35 p.m. Pacific time, which is just about 6.5 minutes from now. Weather is green, and the range is ready to support. But if for some reason we don't launch today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow at the same time.
Hello everyone, I'm Krista Rhodes, a structures engineer here at SpaceX, and I'm joining Jessie today to cover the Transporter-8 mission. The rocket supporting our mission today is kind of like 2 rockets in one, the 1st stage and the 2nd stage. The 1st stage will ignite all 9 engines at T-0, and then lift off from the launch pad and take the vehicle through the thicker parts of the Earth's atmosphere. When the 2 stages separate from each other, the 2nd stage will light its single engine to propel the payloads to where they need to go for deployment. At the very top of the rocket, we have the payload fairing that protects our 72 spacecraft until the vehicle is outside the Earth's atmosphere, at which point the 2 fairing halves separate to expose them to the vacuum of space. And right below the fairing, we have our 2nd stage, which houses our single Merlin vacuum engine, or MVAC engine, which will propel our payloads to their eventual destinations in space. And as a note, on today's mission is our tallest rideshare stack to date and will deliver the largest mass to orbit. You might be able to see this after fairing separation, so keep your eyes peeled. And after fairing separation, you'll notice a shorter nozzle attached to our Merlin vacuum engine, or MVAC engine, and this is because we don't need as much performance for the mission at hand today. And below the 2nd stage is the black carbon fiber inner stage. And the inner stage connects the 2 stages and houses the center pusher that allows the 1st and 2nd stages to separate during flight. And it also houses the MVAC engine that I mentioned moments ago.
Thanks for pressing for strong back retract.
And below that, we have the 1st stage, which we usually refer to as the booster. And the 1st stage makes up the bottom 2/3 of the vehicle and has 9 M1D engines at the bottom. And those 9 Merlin engines do the bulk of the work to get the rocket off the ground and up to the thinner parts of Earth's atmosphere. It's also the primary part of Falcon 9 that we recover, refurbish, and reuse for multiple flights, which brings down the cost of regularly launching rockets. And at about 2.5 minutes into flight, the 1st stage will separate and make its way back to Earth and attempt a landing at landing zone 4, as you can see on your screen, not too far away from the launch pad. And for those of you keeping track, today's mission marks this booster's 9th flight, having previously supported NROL 87 and 85, SARA 1, SWOT, and 4 Starlink missions. And if successful, this landing will also mark SpaceX's 200th landing of an orbital-class rocket. SpaceX first successfully landed a booster back on land in December of 2015 and successfully landed on a drone ship just a few months later in April 2016. Flight-proven 1st stages have launched about 90% of the last 100+ missions since the start of 2022. Recovery and reuse are incredibly important for our teams to build the most advanced rocket fleet, fly rapidly and reliably, and propel us towards our goal of full and rapid reusability with Starship.
Our goal with these missions is to provide small satellite operators competitive pricing, increased flight opportunities, and flexibility. We're flying some really cool payloads on this mission, including several different types of Earth observation and imaging, orbital transfer vehicles, student research projects, and several payloads intended to demonstrate and grow in-space technologies for our customers. Our customers today come from all over the world, supporting teams from 21 different countries and include
Stage 1 launch load is complete.
And include a range of organizations from DARPA or Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency to the Vatican. Even the smallest satellites can make meaningful contributions to the care of planet Earth and our efforts to visit other worlds, and we're looking forward to providing a great ride to space for these 72 payloads on board today, just a few minutes from now.
At T-minus 2 minutes, we are currently waiting for the completion of LOX loading on our second stage. And the white clouds that you can see circling Falcon 9 are completely normal and the result of our super chilled liquid oxygen coming into contact with the relatively warm ambient air at our launch site in Vandenberg.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
And as you just heard, Stage 2 LOX loading has wrapped up, and we are now waiting for Falcon 9 to go into startup at around T-minus 1 minute. And at that point, the Falcon 9 computers will take over our launch countdown.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
And we just heard the call out that Falcon 9 is now in startup, meaning that both stages are now beginning to pressurize for launch, and the flight computers have taken over. We're now waiting for a final go for launch from our launch director.
LD is go for launch.
At T-minus 40 seconds, all systems are a go for launch of Falcon 9 with all 72 payloads on Transporter-8.
T-minus 30 seconds. Seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engines full power. And liftoff of Transporter-8. Go Falcon, go Transporter. Falcon 9 is pushing downrange. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
We are T plus 35 seconds into flight. Falcon 9 has cleared the tower at Space Launch Complex 4 East. We are currently throttling down the engines in
Power and telemetry nominal.
In preparation for Max Q, and great view you can see there on your screen of the vehicle. Max Q is the point
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
Max Q is the point of maximum aerodynamic stress that the vehicle will see on ascent.
Max Q.
And great timing, we have just passed through Max Q. Now we do have 5 events coming up in quick succession. That will be MECO, stage separation, stage 1 flip, SES-1, and then the start of the boost back burn on the first stage. Now MECO is main engine cutoff. That's where we shut down all 9 of those engines.
Back engine chill has started.
That's where we shut down all 9 of those engines that you can see burning there on your screen. That will help slow the vehicle down in preparation for the next event, which is stage separation. That is where the first stage will separate from the second stage. First stage will make its way back to Earth with stage 1 flip and the boost back burn, while the second stage will have SES-1, or second stage engine start 1. And that's where we will ignite the MVAC engine on the second stage as it propels our payload
Falcon,
to
trajectory nominal.
their targeted drop-off orbit. Again, those 5 events are coming up here in just about 15 seconds or so. That is MECO, stage separation, stage 1 flip and boost back burn, as well as SES-1.
Main engine cutoff.
Stage separation confirmed. Stage 1 boost back
And
start.
back ignition.
And really cool views there. We just had MECO stage separation. You could see the first stage doing its flip maneuver, and the boost back burn has begun. On your right-hand screen, you can see that short MVAC nozzle ignited. Very, very cool views. Now we're coming up on fairing separation.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And there you can see the deployment of our fairing halves. They are now making their way back down to Earth. And we are coming up on the boost back burn here in a few seconds. Boost back burn
Stage 1
conclusion.
boost back shutdown.
And there we heard that call out for boost back burn shutdown, and you can see on your left-hand screen as those engines shut off.
Stage 1, trajectory nominal.
Great call outs there. Now the next major milestone coming up is the entry burn on our first stage, which is scheduled to occur around the T+ 6 minute mark.
We're currently in our first of 2 MVAC burns, and this burn should last for about another 4 minutes or so. And as Jesse mentioned, the next milestone will be the first stage's entry burn coming up in about 2 minutes. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Falcon 9 performs 2 burns in order to land. The first of the 2 burns is entry burn to slow itself down before hitting the denser parts of the Earth's atmosphere. Without this burn, we'd only be using the atmosphere and Falcon's drag alone to slow down Falcon 9, which adds extra stresses on the rocket. A single Merlin 1D engine relights for entry burn, and following entry burn, the booster will go through its final burn, the landing burn, which should slow
Stage 2, trajectory nominal.
the vehicle down even more for a successful land landing. And as you can see on the left side of your screen, we have 2 out of Falcon's 4 hypersonic grid fins in view. And they measure 4 feet by 5 feet and help us guide the booster to the landing site by actively changing the vehicle's center of pressure. You're also probably noticing some white puffs of gas from the first stage. And this is cold nitrogen from our attitude control system, which also helps us control the vehicle's descent. And again, the next major milestone we are waiting on is the beginning of our stage 1 entry burn, which is about 30 seconds away. Both altitude and speed are as expected for both our first and second stage.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And as you heard, our entry burn has now began and will last for another 20 seconds.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown. Stage 1 FTS has safed.
We've now completed a successful entry burn, and now that our entry burn has been concluded,
Stage 1 trajectory nominal.
the first stage has one more burn left in preparation for landing. And as I mentioned earlier, we will be attempting to recover this booster for the 9th time today and are targeting a land landing on landing zone 4. Another key aspect of Falcon 9 is its landing legs, and Falcon 9's first stage is equipped with 4 landing legs made of carbon fiber with aluminum honeycomb, and they're placed symmetrically around the
Stage
base
1 transonic.
around the base of the rocket and deploy just prior to landing. We can expect that landing burn to begin in just a few seconds.
Stage 1 landing burn. Landing leg deploy.
And as you saw and probably just heard, we had a successful first stage landing at landing zone 4,
Stage 2 terminal guidance.
marking the 9th landing for this specific booster. It also marks SpaceX's 200th landing,
Stage 2 FTS has safed.
200th landing of an orbital class rocket. Next up, we are expecting the shutdown of the second stage MVAC engine in about 20 seconds.
MVAC shutdown.
And with successful cutoff of
Nominal orbit.
our second stage